Hi, my name is Daniel Lev Shkolnik, and I want to tell you a little bit about the way that I work, a little bit about parts work and stable awakening, what those two things are, and how they relate to one another. And I want to go over three key points around these concepts that I think will give a really good picture of what it is that I do and how it can help you. So the first key is that contrary to what we typically think of in terms of psychology and spirituality, we don't just have a single ego. We have many egos. And what that means exactly in terms of parts work is that our psyche isn't made up of a single I position. Rather, we have many different parts. And these parts have different personalities, they have different attitudes, they have different ages, they even have different bodies. And what Richard Schwartz, the psychologist who developed IFS, internal family systems, which is the kind of parts work that I work with, what he noticed around the 80s or 90s was that when you could actually speak to these parts, and when you do, they have different characteristics, they have different, they look in different ways in our mind's eye, but all of them want one thing, which is to take care of you. They're trying to protect you. They're trying to take care of your being. The issue is the ways in which they're trying to do that are oftentimes outdated because these parts took on certain roles, certain jobs early on in life when we maybe didn't feel entirely safe. Maybe we grew up in an unsafe environment where we didn't get the love or the attention we needed, or that there were some wounds that we took on early in life. And these don't need to be huge, massive wounds. Sometimes they're very, very subtle and very slight. Yet they formed a kind of tape, a kind of loop that these parts then continue to play out throughout our adult lives. Now, the way that parts work works is it helps us to connect with these different inner parts, this inner system or ego system, and we can address these different parts individually. We can talk to them, we can understand what it is that they're doing for us, what they're afraid of, and ultimately we can help to heal them, to unburden them of the pain or the job that they took on, that they're trying their best to do to protect us. We can help to release them of these responsibilities and allow them to transform into an advisor, into a helper, into some part of us that helps us in a more productive and a more healthy way. Now, the way in which we do that is very particular. And it brings me to key point number 2, which is that a part of you is already enlightened. And so this is already beginning to bridge the two concepts of parts work and awakening. And what that means, and particularly what it means in parts work, is what Richard Schwartz discovered is that we have within us a true self with a capital S. And this true self is compassionate, loving, patient, courageous. It is everything that you would imagine a spiritual master or a saint or some kind of what a lot of the spiritual traditions point to and religious traditions point to as that divine quality and divine essence within each and every human being. And what Richard Schwartz discovered is that when we ask these different parts of us to step aside, what emerges is this self, this completely whole, unwounded, unwoundable self. And when we allow this self to step forward, to embody, to actually physically enter into our body and lead our lives, what we find is that we're able to go to those parts within us that have been exiled, rejected, or burdened with pain and jobs that they are unequipped to fulfill. And we can, from this place of self and self-energy, give that love and that healing that we so needed when we were children, and that we, to this point, to this day, continue to seek out in others, whether romantic partners, societal ladder climbing, any number of different ways to try and fulfill and get that kind of recognition and worth that we so need. When we can enter into and be self-led in this way, we gain access to that divine quality that is within every single human being, every sentient being, which is the realization not only can we heal ourselves and become whole on an individual level, but we can go beyond that and realize from this place of self and self-leadership that we are one and the same as every other living creature. And beyond that, even further, we are the universe. We are the cosmos. There is no distinction between me and you, between us and the world. In essence, every single one of us is God. And this understanding and this realization is accessible from this place of self in a way that it is hard to access from any other place. And this is the part of us, again, that is already awake. It is already enlightened. The only problem is it isn't in the lead. It is not leading our lives. And that is what parts work aims to do, is to get that part to start leading. And the way we do that is by accessing it and helping the rest of our ecosystem, these other parts, to trust in its leadership. And that takes a little bit of time, it takes a little bit of love. But when you're able to do that, suddenly old standing patterns resolve, the inner system becomes harmonious, and we become much more able to access a state of connection, love, and unity with not only other human beings, but the world itself. So this brings me to key point number 3, and that is that awakening is not the end. It is just the beginning. A lot of people think about awakening, enlightenment, as the end of the journey. And, in a lot of religious and spiritual traditions, that's how it's been portrayed. But I actually think that is a misrepresentation. Both in my experience and the experience of several people that I've spoken to that have had awakening experiences, the work continues after awakening. There is a deepening that has to happen after we have our initial realization that we are being, that we are beings that are waking up in the dream. Although the dream continues on, we are aware that we are dreaming. And what, in particular, I think a misconception that a lot of people have is that awakening will solve all your problems. That you will have, all of your wounds will mend, and that there will be, essentially you'll become this kind of perfect being. And what I found is that in reality we become not perfect so much as we become aware that we are part of a world that is already perfect. And so it's not so much that we are perfect or that we have to present ourselves in some kind of perfect, enlightened way. No, the reality or the realization of awakening is that we are part of a world that has always and will always be perfect. And therein is part of one of the major keys of awakening, where we don't have to show up, we don't have to try to show up as enlightened or wise or powerful or any kind of spiritual image that we're striving to present. Rather, at every moment, you and everyone else is already a part of that perfection, that ground of being. And there is nothing you can do, even if you tried, that would eject you from that perfection. We may not be able to see it. We may be stuck in pain and difficulties, and we may die. And awakening, I'll say this, is not an escape from any of that. All of those things, the pain, the sickness, the death, that will and most probably will happen to each and every one of us. But what we no longer cling to in that state is an attachment to this body, to this identity, to our possessions, and to our status in the world. We become at peace, and we sense and feel ourselves at one with the universe, recognizing that there is nothing that we have to do. There is nothing more that we could add to this overall perfection. That at every moment, all we have to do is show up, present, loving, connected. And any action that we need to take, any words that we need to say, they will arise spontaneously and naturally. And we don't have to try or force them to. And when we can live in this state, not just in peak moments, like with psychedelics or mystical experiences, which inevitably fall away and we come back down to our regular unconscious form of being. Rather, instead of chasing these peak moments, Parts work allows us to gradually open up to a stable form of awakening, where we have the trust of the rest of our inner system, the rest of our ego system. We have the trust that allows us ourself to embody and lead. And in that place, from that place of self-leadership and self-energy, we can stay at that place of openness, of love, of connectedness consistently. And that takes time, and that takes practice, and it takes work. But it is the most joyous and the sweetest kind of work. So hopefully this video gives at least an initial sense of what it is that I do and how it is that I work with people. The way in which parts work allows us to create a healthy, whole, healed ego so that we can then transcend that ego. Not reject it, but accept it, and also go beyond, opening up to the realization that we are in fact one and the same as everything around us, that we are God, we are the divine. And in that place, there is immense peace. And in that place, you are part of an overarching perfection that will not end when you end. In fact, you will enter in, as Jesus said, into the kingdom of heaven, into nirvana, into moksha. And if this is something that resonates with you, if you feel like this is something that this is work you would like to begin, or maybe you've already been on the path for some time and want to go deeper, reach out. I'd love to talk with you. I'd love to tell you more, and I'd love to work with you.